Good afternoon, everyone. I would like to welcome council, staff, and members of the public to our July 29th special council meeting and call this meeting to order. I'd like to also mention that the 48 hours notice was provided in accordance with the Town of Petrolia's procedural bylaw, and the agenda was posted on the Civic Web and provided to council at 10:15 a.m. on July 24th, 24. I'd like to ask Mrs. Pearson for the Indigenous Land Acknowledgement, please.
Thank you, Your Worship. We acknowledge that this land on which we are gathered today is part of the ancestral land of the Chippewa, the Ottawa, and the Potawatomi peoples, referred to collectively as the Anishinaabe. The town of Petrolia is located on the land associated with the Huron Tract Treaty number 29 of 1827. We express gratitude for the land where we live, work, and play, and we are committed to working respectfully with the land and the Indigenous peoples who have called this land home.
Thank you, Mrs. Pearson. And I'd like to request that you perform the roll call, please.
Councillor Clark.
Present.
Deputy Mayor Field.
Present.
Councillor Hyatt.
Present.
Councillor O'Hara.
Present.
Councillor Patel.
Present.
Councillor Welsh.
Present.
Mayor Loosely.
Present.
And we have a quorum, Your Worship.
Thank you. At this time, I'd like to request that council declare a conflict of interest now or at the appropriate time and complete the necessary paperwork. Seeing none, we'll move on to the adoption of the agenda before you. I'd like to ask for a move and a seconder to adopt the agenda, please. Moved by Councillor Welsh, seconded by Councillor Hyatt. Any discussion regarding the agenda before you today? And a reminder, we are only dealing with these issues being a special meeting. I'll call a vote. All those in favor? Opposed? That motion carries. Moves us on to consideration of minutes of the previous meetings. There are none. That'll move us to number 7. We have a report to council from Mrs. Julie Bullock, Director of Parks, Recreation, and Facilities, regarding the pilot Petrolia Y bulk swim passes. And I'd like to ask Mr. Rick Charlebois for his report, please.
Thank you. Through you, Your Worship. We have a report to council on the agenda, and also a little slide presentation that we put together to explain the program. And I think it addresses the issues that we heard from the public, and be glad to answer any questions or comments anybody may have.
All right, I guess I will ask for a move and a seconder to put that motion on the floor for discussion. Can I have moved by Councillor O'Hara, seconded by Councillor Welsh? Any discussion? Okay, we'll carry on. I've got a few things I'd like to mention. Mrs. Bullock, do you have anything you'd like to add?
Not right at this point.
Okay. I've got a couple issues. There's two, and maybe you can clarify it for me. One is the idea of having the Y sell the passes. I feel that if the town is doing it, there's nobody there after hours or during weekends. And we've talked about it maybe being online, if that's correct.
Yes.
The only concern I've got is people going swimming will not be bringing their phones, or they wouldn't probably bring their phone to an unlocked locker. So my concern is, would the Y be able to sell the 10 passes there? Go ahead.
I was going to say, I think the Y, and the GMs here would allow people that don't have their bulk passes, which hopefully they do, but if they don't, they just need access to the internet to be able to purchase them.
Yeah, my question would be, would you go on the internet? Yeah, come on forward, please. Would you actually do that for them on the spot?
Like allow them to purchase the pass?
10
online?
passes, yes.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
Okay, and then you could.
We cannot be the sellers of the pass. The Y has to stick to our business model and our approach. These passes are being sold by the town. And so, like, I think I mentioned in an email to Rick that, we would be completely open to, maybe a town representative on certain days coming on a weekend, maybe for a couple hours and selling. But the Y cannot sell these just based on our business model.
I guess, Mike, I have a major concern with that, and I cannot support the motion as it is then, because I still think in an emergency, if you could even say, okay, we can go online, let them pay for them and buy it, put it in a separate box even. I'm just concerned about people showing up, especially on a weekend, and not be able to go swimming because they don't have a pass. That's
Your
my
worship,
concern.
we do have a comment at when you're ready. Councillor Clark has his hand up and Councillor Field have their hand up online.
Okay. Why don't we go to Deputy Mayor Field? Do you want to go ahead and speak to that, please?
Sure. I just want to get clarification. I believe the Y just said that they would allow people to go on the internet to purchase them. Is that not the case? Like they're not doing it for them, but they're going to allow them to access? Is that?
Yeah, like they can make the purchase in our building using our internet. Like we have no problem doing that. We just cannot be the one making the sale.
Again,
Folks
but
that
my
can go-
my concern still is, I don't think everyone, I sure don't. If I were to go swimming, I don't take my phone. So they wouldn't, what if they don't have a phone? My concern is, would the Y do that for them?
And we do have an iPad that people can use in the branch as well if they
Okay.
need to. So we have those means available. Again, it's just the credit card would have to be processed through the town of Petrolia system.
But you could help them get online to do that.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, we could provide.
Joel,
that.
does that answer your question then too?
Yeah. I thought that's what they said. I just wanted to make sure that that was the answer, which is the answer for your question. So, yeah, thank
Okay.
you.
Thank you.
Councillor Clark as well.
Councillor Clark, go ahead. Councillor Clark, did you have your hand up?
Councillor Welsh, if we want to give Councillor Clark.
Okay,
a
we'll give you
moment,
some
Councillor
time.
Welsh should have her hand raised.
Councillor Welsh, go ahead.
The City of London, they do it directly through the city, correct?
Correct.
Their purchases. And Julie, did you mention that our point of sale currently cannot do that?
So we have been looking at a couple different options, and what we were thinking of doing actually is doing a Shopify site, so that would be basically a way that people could purchase online. And basically the Y would basically be fulfilling that order. To do it through our own website would be a little bit more challenging, but we can embed one of those websites into it. So there is the capability is there. We just had to do a little research on how it would get done.
Okay, Councillor Welsh, I'll go back. Councillor Clark.
Yeah, thank you. I think I'm working now. I was having some difficulty getting my mic to unmute. My question is, like yourself, I wouldn't want to carry my phone either, but would they not be able to print a paper copy of that pass to carry with them instead of carrying their electronic device?
I mean, essentially, the way that we've envisioned this system working is we only need the initial receipt. So they don't need to bring something with them every time. At the end of the day, they will still be signing up into the YMCA system. I believe the City of London uses a declining balance membership card, essentially. So once we receive the initial receipt for the purchase, we would print them a membership card that specifically says, Town of Petrolia Swim Pass. And that would be the card that they bring with them every time. It can fit in a wallet. They don't need to bring anything else because we're assuming they'll have a wallet if they're driving to us. So that's going to be the process. They won't need to bring a receipt every time that they come.
Okay, thank you. I think, again, my concern was just to try and keep it as simple as possible for the people that show up.
Councillor Patel.
Okay, Councillor Patel, go ahead.
Hi, thank you. Is this not simply in how this is going to be new information? We present it with all the information that they need up front, so they're very well aware of how to do it, how to purchase them, where and when. And could we not just do a QR code? They scan the QR code to purchase it, takes them right to whatever they need. Like that would be a very simple way of doing it. We could actually post a QR code right at the Y. So, I mean, I get people don't take their phone swimming. They maybe not take it in, but they would probably have it in their vehicle. So it'd be a matter of going out and getting their phone and then scanning a QR code. I think if we do the information up front as to what they need to do, people will follow instructions or they'll have to go back and reread them.
Okay, thank you. Did you want to speak to that, Wade, at all, or do you understand that? Okay, yeah. Oh.
Yeah, I mean, we can support, like, actually, I don't know. Give me 1 second here. I can present this to your worship. It's just a draft FAQ that we've created.
Sure. Thank you. I'll circulate this to council as well.
Yeah, and it would be very simple to, adjust that as to how we feel is the best way to proceed in terms of, say like we can put a QR code directly on the FAQ sheet. That'd be something that the town could share, the Y can share. And it'd be very simple to just put a graphic on there that directs them to the Shopify page if that's what they're going with. And then again, even if they just present a receipt on their phone with the date, shows the purchase, then that's all we would require to set up their account.
Okay. Any other questions from council? I've got,
Councillor Field or
Councillor
Deputy Mayor Field.
Deputy Mayor Field, go ahead.
Thank you, through your worship. Just wondering if we're going to put a cap on this. Like, are we going to, like this is a pilot project? Is it going to be so many passes? I just wondered what the thoughts were around that.
Well, my understanding was it's a pilot project for 1 year, and the idea is you buy your 10 passes. I'm not
But
sure what
are we, like, if people buy passes worth $30,000 worth of passes, are we going with that? Like, I wondered if we had a cap on the amount of, like, because we're subsidizing that.
Mr. Charlebois, would you like to speak to that?
Yeah, good question, Deputy Mayor. We hadn't thought of that. We were hoping to sell as many as we could, but you're right. If we sell more than the people that can fit into the swimming pool, it's not going to go well. But I think because of it being a pilot, we're going to have to monitor that through Wade, and we may have to restrict the sale if you end up with too many people in the pool. Yeah.
Well, and there could be something as well where we, have it so there's only one active pass per account. Could be something we look into on that front as well.
True.
I think Councillor Hyatt and we've talked about how there could be certain, he's got 4 kids, but if he wants to come swimming by himself, maybe he has an individual just for himself and a household when he wants to bring the kids. So we'd have to look at some of those case by case situations, but maybe just putting a restriction on how many passes can be active at one time, putting an expiration date on when the passes can be used would also be an option as well. If it's a 1-year pilot, would we say, I don't know if we put that in there yet, but a 1-year pilot and they expire at the end of the pilot could be another option to keep it in check, we'll say.
Okay, thank you.
I think, Your Worship, just to that, I think we would just have to double check, because it'd be much like a gift card, if I'm understanding, and there's no expiration on gift cards, so we'd have to identify something to that. Yeah.
I just have a follow-up, Your Worship.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, and I, totally support the idea of the passes and not looking. Maybe if there's an update that we could have after 3 months to see how this actually goes, which 3 months would be pretty much our summer. Just to understand, so we understand as we go forward with this. I realize it's a 1-year project, at the end of the 1 year isn't the greatest time to know. So if we could find out throughout if the Y could report back or Mrs. Bullock could report back to us.
I think that's a great suggestion, and I would certainly request that the Y or Mrs. Bullock work together on bringing back a report to council in 3 months. Councillor Hyatt.
Yeah, kind of along. So that's a great idea. I also had midterm reports, so quarterly reports are maybe even better than midterm. I'm just wondering how we're going to track it in our system. Are we creating new GL account numbers that are going to say, this is the subsidy that we've created. This is, what we've taken in as revenue, and this is what the YMCA would charge us. So how are we going to evaluate that in terms of determining the financial stat?
That's a great question. I don't know if Mr. Charlebois, would you like to address that as our treasurer, please?
Yes, certainly. Through your worship, Councillor Haidt explained it quite well. So we'll have money in, money out. The difference is the subsidy. And by the same token, when Julie does a report in December, we should also bring back how many of the passes actually went through. Because we sell them doesn't mean people are going to use them.
Okay, Jeff, go ahead. You have another one, or is
That's fine for me.
Okay.
Thank you.
I have a concern still, although I'm pleased to hear about the passes. I feel a little more comfortable with that. My other concern is I think it should be open up to everyone, not just the town of Petrolia. And, you know, I'm thinking about keeping it simple. I'm not concerned about otherwise or whatever, but I think we're paying for the deficit anyway. I think we're making it confusing by charging her, and I agree with the rates, I agree with the 10 passes, but I think we don't have an in and out of town rate now. I think I'd rather have it so we can have a rate to bring people into our community from outside, as well as keep our people in town. So I think it's something that should be offered to anyone and everyone. And I don't know if council would like to speak to that or not, but I can't support the motion that's in place as it is now. Councillor Welsh.
The people that I spoke with personally and who have sent me messages and emails were all town of Petrolia residents. And I think for now, we should just leave it at Petrolia residents and we'll see how it flies. And then because it is us subsidizing it and it is, you know, the other municipalities really don't contribute to it at all. And I would like to see it just kept to Petrolia residents for right now while we run the pilot.
Okay, thank you. And again, I guess the other concern is I'd like to keep the pool like filled. If it gets to the point where it's over capacity or over too many people is one thing, but we're paying to maintain that pool with guards, et cetera, whether there's 10 people or 25 people. Councillor Welsh.
Perhaps at the 3 and 6 month mark, when we receive the reports, we could get some idea of how many people in Petrolia, and if it isn't being used to maximum, then perhaps we could consider opening it up for the second half of the pilot. It is a pilot, so we're just trying things out for now.
Okay. Councillor, Mr. Charlebois.
Through your worship, I was just gonna suggest the exact same thing when Julie comes back in December with our 3-month report. Like open up just to Petrolia for the first 3 months, but in December, we'll know what's going on, and then maybe staff could recommend that we open it up or know we're full just from Petrolia people.
I wonder if we should.
Councillor Patel, your worship.
Okay, Councillor Patel, go ahead.
Thank you, through you, your worship. So with all the different points that have been brought forward, why don't we, as a test pilot, do a cap on the first 3 months strictly to Petrolia residents and see where we're at and see what kind of feedback we get. We could also keep that cap in mind with, I'm just going to throw a number out. Maybe it's, 2,000 passes for Petrolia residents, but half as many for outside. We could certainly track it that way and not overcomplicate it. But we could certainly open it up as a pilot program. This is how we're going to start it off to see what the feedback is, and then expand it based on results after that first evaluation.
I think I can live with that, but I think if we're going to do that, I'd like to request that council consider an amendment then to amend it by saying to come back in 3 months to take a look at the numbers, et cetera, at that time. If council considers that, I can live with that. Otherwise, I cannot support it.
Yeah.
Councillor Hyatt.
Like for me, we're creating a pilot program, right? We're trying to micromanage at a very finite level, a pilot program that we have no idea how it's even going to work. So I'm not sure why we're trying to tie our hands and bind ourselves so much when we have no idea if the pilot program would even be successful.
I think it's, yeah, and I agree with that. It's just for the actual record that we will have for sure a record come back in 3 months. That's all I'm asking.
Oh, yeah.
Instead of just verbal, I'm asking for an amendment that be done.
So an amendment to support that 3-month report.
3 months,
comes
yeah.
back. Oh, yeah.
Okay, moved by Councillor Hyatt. I need a seconder by Wells. Any discussion on the amendment itself? All those in favor? That's carried. And then we'll vote on them. If there's anything else, I'll ask one more time. We'll vote on the motion now as amended, but I'll ask council or staff or anyone if you have anything you'd like to add at this time. If not, I'll call the vote. All those in favor? Opposed? That motion carries. Thank you. That'll move us on now to the consideration of bylaws. We have 2 bylaws. I'll ask for a motion to have those 2 bylaws read a first and second time. Moved by Councillor Hyatt, seconded by Councillor Wells. Any discussion? All those in favor, that motion carries. And I'll ask for a motion to have the bylaws read a 3rd time, finally passed, signed, sealed, and numbered. I'll need a motion
Discussion or?
We'll do that after the third reading. You can do that.
Okay.
Okay, moved by Councillor Hyatt, seconded by Deputy Mayor Field. Okay, I'll ask the clerk to read those motions and then I'll open it up for any discussion.
Okay, so those bylaws are as follows. That bylaw number 37 of 2024, being a bylaw of the Corporation of the Town of Petrolia to authorize the execution of an agreement with the Federation of Canadian Municipalities for the purpose of receiving funds under the Green Municipal Fund, be read a third time and finally passed. And that bylaw number 38 of 2024, being a bylaw of the Corporation of the Town of Petrolia to confirm the resolutions and motions of the Council of the Town of Petrolia, which were adopted up to and including July 29th, 2024, be read a third time and finally passed.
Thank you. Any discussion regarding those two bylaws? Councillor Hyatt.
Thank you. Through you, just through the project scope here in Schedule C, it's pretty limited scope. It only talks about roofing, lights, and HVAC. Will the scope, can the scope be expanded to maybe include pumps and VFDs and heaters and all the inefficiencies that might happen inside the YMCA? Like, it seems like there's maybe a larger boat that we could look at from an efficiency standpoint.
Good point. Mr. Charlebois, would you like to speak to that?
Certainly, through your worship. Those are the three main things that we know of that we need to replace or fix. I could see if we can expand it. This is the feasibility study. It's from the Federation of Canadian Municipalities. Once the feasibility study is done, the next phase, and if we work well with FCM, will be the capital grant part. And just those three parts are probably close to $2 million. And the capital grant that's associated with the feasibility study is 50 cent dollar. So if it's a 2 million, we'd be able to get $1 million in grant. But I can reach out and see if we can expand it.
Yeah, I'm just thinking like from a cost perspective, like
Yeah.
a roof isn't going to save, well, maybe save a little bit of money, but it's not going to help generate revenue. But, you know, if we can find better efficiency heaters that are heating that, you know, sauna type pool, then maybe that's something that could be looked at, right? So
Thank you, Mr. Charlebois, and thank you, Councillor Hyde. I agree with that too. If we can add or different individuals to it, I think that's a great idea, and to work with the Y to get any suggestions.
Yeah, and
Okay.
that is the purpose of this grant program, to reduce our footprint, carbon footprint. Yeah.
Any other discussion from council regarding those two bylaws? If not, I'll call the vote. All those in favor of approving the third reading of those bylaws? Opposed? That motion carries, and I'll ask for a motion to adjourn, please. Moved by Councillor Clark, seconded by Councillor Patel. Any discussion? Have a good summer, everyone. We'll see you in September, if not before. All those in favor of adjournment? Opposed? That motion carries. Thank you, everyone, for coming.